Good morning. It is I, Freya. It has been a very, very long time since I last streamed. I'm pretty sure the last thing I streamed would have been Doom 1, the original Doom that came out in 1990 something, I believe. I could be completely wrong. I am not all there, but I'm pretty much doing this just to give like a small update of where I've been. Okay, I'm not dead. If you follow me on Twitter, you can see that I've still been very active over there on that side. And if you're also following me on Twitter, you also know that I have kind of been through quite a bit at the beginning of the year. So just like a small update on everything that has been. Um, so that last stream I did would have been before Thanksgiving, I believe, or it would have been after Thanksgiving. And I have said multiple times that my PC has had issues with blue screens. Like, it was doing it very constantly. So that's why I kind of just limited how many streams I'm gonna do, because I did not want my streams to just be like, hey, look, it's me playing a game. We're having fun. Interrupted. Dead. Well, I just got shot in the back of the head. But pretty much the whole thing about all of that being is I was gonna limit my streams to at least maybe, once a month until I could get a better upgrade on my PC. And I know it's counterintuitive. Like, if I want to put my Ko-Fi out there, be like, hey, support me, help me get a better PC, I should probably stream so much more. I should post so much more. I should do something to drive traffic to my Ko-Fi so I could get some donations. And I did get one donation when I first started, but then I just felt like, do I really like donations will help, but at the same time, I'm not really doing anything to deserve donations, especially if I'm not streaming, so I never really pushed for it. If you follow me on Twitter, it is still a pinned tweet, but I mean, I never really drove traffic to it. I never gave reminders, I never did anything, but it was still there. I never really even. I'm pretty sure a lot of people that kind of know me don't even know I have that to begin with. But that's pretty much where the whole thing was. I just didn't want streams to be interrupted by my blue screens. I was gonna do a holiday stream, like, a Christmas stream, but at the time, with everything going on, like, it was nothing bad at the time. Just, a lot of family things happening at that time, and I fell behind on Christmas shopping, so I had to be very, very on top of that, so that kind of ate into my schedule, just so I could be sure that I get everyone something at least. So that's where that kind of lied, and eventually 2025 came around, and I will be completely honest with you. This is where I just decided to take a break from streaming entirely. I did not give any update or anything other than on Twitter, just some things that happened. I have a YouTube side of this stuff too, and I completely neglected that. The fact that I still have 40 something followers on both is surprising. I've felt people would have been like, well, he's dead, time to unsubscribe. I'm so thankful to everyone that still follows. So let me just give an update on everything, on why it took me 5 months to come back. Less than 5 months. Thanksgiving is November. See, December, January, February, March. It's 4 months. I can't do math. There's a reason I'm not a professional or anything. I can't math. So if you follow me on Twitter, I kind of gave, kind of snippets of what's been going on with my real life. So January 2nd, 2025, I woke up and we got the news that my grandmother had passed away. And it hit me hard when I got the news, because I just sat there and I tried to process everything. And I let a lot of people know I'm gonna take a step back from everything because I need time to grieve. I need time to mourn. I mean, even bringing it up now, I mean, it still kind of hurts because mean, she was always someone I could go to, and but she's resting now. We put her to rest next to my grandpa. They're right next to each other, and I all I can just hope is that they're at peace with everything. I would have came back to streaming shortly after that if it hadn't been for a significant thing. If you're a regular follower of me, I don't know if you are. I doubt anyone is. Or if you're a friend, you know I live in LA County. And one major thing that happened in January is the huge wildfires. You know, the Eden fire, the Palisades fire. I was not very close to those, although I could see them from my house. The one that I was the closest to would have been the Hearst fire. I don't think I posted it on Twitter, but I said there's a wildfire in my city, and then that on top of, I don't think it's ever been like reported on the news, at least it wasn't the main thing to report, is the whole city, my whole city had a huge blackouts. So if I wanted to be busy, I would have had to been Neanderthal mode and like find a book. I'm not saying this is like your caveman if you enjoy reading or anything. I had to find something to do that wasn't electronic so my battery doesn't die, is what I'm trying to say. So thankfully I kept my Nintendo Switch completely charged. I leave that on the dock. Why I do that? I don't know if it kills the battery. Nintendo Switch 2 coming out soon anyway. That's fine. So I had that to, at least keep me preoccupied, but most of the time I just laid in bed and I was just waiting for the day to pass. Not the best thing to do when you're mourning, because that added to so much stress, especially when driving, because like when I say citywide blackouts, I don't mean just homes had no power. I mean even the streets, like just driving with no street lights or nothing. That's when you realize it's not when you drive in the rain or the snow when you realize the bad drivers are there. It's when there's no power, because I witnessed so many car accidents just trying to get food because people don't know a non-functioning street light is a stop sign. How do you get your license? It's literally a question on the test. Anyway, but that added so much stress. Driving at night. I'd work nights. Driving at night while morning, of course, and while there's no power is the scariest thing, because the only light source there is other cars, and there are some very irresponsible people out there that tend to drive at night with no headlights. Why you do this? Please, I want to know. If you're one of those that drive without headlights at night, why you do this? This is a genuine question that I want answered. It was so dark. Like, if you know LA, you know there's a lot of light pollution. This is one of the few times where I was able to look at the sky and see stars. Okay, well, I'm not thinking New York levels, but I see a bunch of stars and constellations that I've never noticed. But yeah, so I was unable to keep myself preoccupied because I was too busy stressing about if I'm gonna get in a car accident or someone's gonna loot my house because there's no power. So that added that. On top of that, I kind of posted this on Twitter too. We had a alert saying there's a fast-moving wildfire in your area. So that was another thing that I eventually had to deal with, because at the time I was just like, well, what are we doing here? Okay, a giant alert on my phone when the loudest noise possible. If you get Amber Alerts, you kind of are aware of what it is, like the whole emergency signal, emergency frequency, whatever. You know what it is because it's just like, well, this is the loudest thing possible. The scariest noise. I don't want to replicate it because I feel the noise is actually copyrighted. That's why emergency alert system videos, I think, are also taken down quite a bit. So I was like, oh no, there's a fast-moving wildfire in my area. So that added even more stress onto me, and eventually, maybe 1 to 2 hours later, we got the second alert saying you are under evacuation warning. Please pack up now. That way, so if you are given the order to evacuate, you're just ready to leave. So we got that, and that just added way too much stress because I didn't want to leave my house. No one, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that don't want to leave their house. There's other issues why I would leave my house, but this is not like, you know, I I didn't want to like just the risk of being homeless is just scary to me. I can't survive out in the wilderness. I have no skills other than what I do online. Thankfully, that was a false alarm because the Department of Emergency Office Management ended up giving us saying like, oh, this disregard that evacuation warning, and the entire time I was like, this gave me such a huge heart attack, you have no idea. Even though I was relieved, it still added a bunch of anxiety to me. But that's just how that was. It is what it is with that. The wildfires in my immediate area got dealt with pretty soon, and the power came back, so I was out of power for like 2 to 3 days, I believe. And once it came back, I started just doing my own thing, trying to get by because upcoming a few days later was the funeral. And once the funeral came, I broke down entirely, you know, seeing my grandma just there, thinking she might wake up again and say, oh, what's everyone doing here? We'll like, you know, be surprised. Saying my last goodbye to her really hit me very hard. Like she's just seeing her laying there. And then when we transported the coffin with her body to the cemetery, we closed the lid to give her last goodbye, and then we put her to rest next to my grandpa. It really hit me way too hard that I will never be able to see her again. I'm trying not to cry on stream, but this isn't the first time I've shed tears, so I mean, it'll go away. I got so depressed that day, and I knew it wasn't gonna be good. One thing I'd never brought up is the fact that it's way too hard to talk about. I just find it very hard to talk about because there's so much I didn't say to her. Like, so she lived multiple states away from me. So I live in California. She lived in Colorado. They brought her from Colorado to California so we could put her to rest next to my grandpa. And like, she was the last grandparent I've ever had, and I no longer have any living grandparents anymore, and even that hit me hard. So I got way too depressed that day, and I started reaching out to people because I was scared of what might happen to me. A lot of you probably don't know, but I suffer from depression very, very frequently. And I was scared of how I was feeling because that night there's I must say a taboo for VTubers or like PNG tubers or whatever. That night, so there was someone that I had very strong feelings for at the time too, and once like I reached out to them. I reached out to multiple people, but I reached out to them too because, you know, for me being like, hey, I like you. You helped me the most out of everyone. That was one of the biggest mistakes of my life because not one of the biggest mistakes. That was a huge mistake because I got thrown away. I have no other way to say it, but just think about it. Like you and someone else seem to flirt a lot, and you both kind of mentioned that you like each other and that it's gonna lead down to a relationship, only to then be told the night of the funeral, when I'm already broken, being told, no, you're pretty much told that you are the backup to someone else that they like. And once they get with them, you're thrown to the side. That's pretty much what happened to me, and it broke me so hard that I took a break from everything entirely. I was still on Discord, so I still had people to talk to, but I took a break from everything because I got way too depressed over everything. This is all in the span of 10 days. Keep in mind. So my grandma passing away, the fires, the blackouts, the funeral, and then this huge heartbreak that I had. This was all in the span of 10 days. And just I broke down entirely. There were days I just laid in bed. I never got out of bed. I just laid there. And I didn't eat. I skipped a bunch of meals because of how depressed I was. I was far too depressed in the fact of what was happening that at the time the thoughts of suicide started to spring up. That's another thing I have a hard time talking about because dealing with this was already hard enough. What thoughts were going through my head at the time, what I kept thinking, were thoughts I did not want to think. I did not ever plan to say goodbyes in that way. But I couldn't think of anything else to do other than lay in bed and try to write it out as best as I can. Reach out if I can. This is another thing that I have a gripe with. So some people out there are like, if you watch this in the future, some of you are probably like, why didn't you just go to therapy? My medical insurance does not cover therapy. Oh my god, an American that can't afford therapy and his insurance won't cover it. Why does that sound like a bad thing? I'm referencing something else that, I probably shouldn't. It was very bad of me to even say this, but yes, my medical insurance would not cover therapy unless it was deemed necessary. And before any of this, I was diagnosed with seasonal depression, SAD. Seasonal affective disorder, I believe is what it was. And I couldn't even get my antidepressants because I was told when it was happening in January was outside of the range of when my depressive episodes are. If you don't know when they are, it's from July. It typically starts around my birthday in July, and it lasts until maybe October to November. If you know what happened in October, I don't want to repeat it. I'd rather not. But this is pretty much what happened, and I did not want those thoughts coming in. I was scared of everything. I was scared of all those thoughts running through my head. And thankfully, it passed. I had a few people reach out to me asking, "Are you okay?" Because I was on the verge of giving up entirely. And I thankfully there was a few people that reached out. There's one person in particular that reached out the most. They put so much effort to make sure that I could smile again and that I was okay. I'm not gonna say who it is, but that one person, I can guarantee they definitely saved my life. Even if it was just them being there for me or just them actually putting in the effort to make sure that I know I'm still cared for and it'll pass. They definitely saved my life because that's ultimately what I guess I felt like I needed. I needed someone to be there.